And thus it was that your grandmother was the first woman ever to cross the Ottawa on the bridge that was then under construction. How Grandpa shifted gears when the gear shift pulled out. We had a McLaughlin Buick Phaeton, and the family were on our way from Fort William to Loon, and we were going along the then Nipigon Highway, and never went past Nipigon in those days, and it was a gravel road, and when we reached the Loon turnoff, it was a very sharp left-hand turn and then up a steep slope. So there's no way you could go up in normal high gear. Absolutely no way. So your grandfather had, I guess, the fastest reflexes of any human being I've ever known. He also was an extremely powerful man, physically powerful. So when he grabbed something and did it, he did it with vigor. And so he swung the wheel, clutched, and shifted gears to get down into low, and the gear shift lever came out in his hand. And we were in no gear at all. Like a flash of lightning, your grandfather dropped the gear shift, pulled his pen out, pushed it down into where the gear lever was, and shifted with his pen. And that's what got us up to the top of the hill. Then he pulled over the side of the road and he put the thing back together again. But lightning reflexes and control. He was in control of his faculties, in control of his senses, in control of his muscular coordination all the time.
So this control, how did he treat his children? For example, yourself, where were you within the family? There was Auntie Dorothy, there was Uncle Fred, there was yourself and Auntie Marion. There's 4 of you.
Well, of course, there would have been 7 of us. The firstborn was Isabel.
She died.
And she died at childbirth. And then there was Stuart. And he died as a baby.
22 months.
And then came Auntie Dorothy. And then came Auntie Marion. Then I came along. Then Uncle Fred. And then Robert. Robbie. Bobby.
Robert Stewart.
Bobby was just a darling boy. But he had a blood ailment. Now the others, Isabel and Stuart, had gone before I was born, so I didn't know them. But Bobby was, oh, very, very special little kid. Just a living doll. And full of beans. But he developed a blood disease, and I don't know what it is to this day, and I don't think the doctors ever did know what it was. I watched my dad give Bobby a transfusion the night before he died.
From his own blood?
From his own blood, lying on the table right next to the crib that Bobby was in.
Sure.
The doctors were there. The hospital was in our house. And the doctor came and told us that Dr. Cecil Spence and Dr. Sturt was there too. The best team of doctors that were available in Fort William. But they just couldn't do anything for Bobby. They came and told us that he wasn't going to make it. And your grandmother took us into a little side room and had us all kneel, and she prayed for Bobby. And she prayed that God help Bobby make it through the crisis. But she wound up her prayer. Nevertheless, God, not my will, but thine be done. That's how my mother, my parents, my grandparents, I saw it in them too, could stand the shocks because of their faith in religion. It added to the strength, and you like the word control, and control, because there was no hysterics, no wailing. It was God's will, let Bobby go, and that was it.
But there must have been a fine balance, Dad, between their will and what they perceived to be God's will.
Oh, no fine balance. There was a very...
Your dad, from what you've told me throughout my life and now, he doesn't give me the impression of someone who is going to bow all the time to something, say, well, that's the way God wants it, I have no right to think for myself.
Absolutely the opposite, son. But when it comes down to the crunch, and your grandfather was perceptive enough to recognize the crunch. And after your grandfather had fought as hard as he could, including giving his own blood, saw that it was hopeless, all he could do under the controls that governed him, all he could do was pray for his child. And that's all my mother could do. You fight until the battle is totally lost and irrevocably lost, and then you accept fate. And that was their philosophy. That was their.
Another major part of your environment at that time and of your dad's life that you were telling us before is the musical ability that your dad had. Did that come from his dad, or was this from your mom as well? And what part did music play in your life at that time?
Oh gosh, music all through my life. The entire family was musical. Your Aunt Rubra, who was Dad's only surviving immediate family. Aunt Rubra was a talented musician. She was organist at one of the nearby churches. She...
in Fort Wayne?
No,
Montreal.
right here in Montreal. Right here in Montreal. Unfortunately, she had... she was a manic depressive.
Aunt Rubra.
Aunt Rubra. And you'll find works of art around here. You'll find ceramic artwork that she did. Well, there's some crochet work somewhere. There's all kinds of objects.
Mostly Limoges china that she painted.
Oh, she got Limoges china and would then superimpose her own artwork on it and have it glazed and fired. And most members of the family have one or two examples of her work. She was a musician. My dad just breathed music, just loved music.
Was it popular, classical?
Oh no, he was Bytown minstrel croons. I could show you something that I have here, which I'm going to will to the museum at McGill. And it's the 1899 program of the Bytown Coon Minstrels, which was perhaps the most smashingly successful musical play ever put on by McGill students, with the possible exception of My Fair Lady.
My Fair Lady.
Possible exception of that. But it was so smashingly successful that they showed it for a week at His Majesty's Theatre here in Montreal. Took it down to Quebec City and showed it there. Took it up to Bytown, to Ottawa, and showed it there. Your grandfather was a featured soloist on the banjo and a featured member of the cast. I think his name was Richard Cartwright. But it was a lampoon on the entire cabinet of Sir Wilfrid Laurier. And some of evolved into fairly close personal friends, like Sir Clifford Sifton, who became a very close friend of your grandfather's, for whom your grandfather made a fortune, and who was the man responsible for my becoming a deacon. Because Sir Clifford Sifton had been a deacon, and he got in touch with Tau Alpha of Delta Kappa Epsilon at McGill when Sir Clifford learned that I was going to McGill.